My wife is right and I sucked at my job today. And here's why. So my job is the companies that we buy to go there and basically bring them to operational excellence. What does that mean? We standardize processes, we standardize things, how they should be done. We introduce SOP, which are standard operating procedures. And the main drive and the main driving force in that is me. So today I had an epiphany because I had a good day, but I did some stuff that I shouldn't have done. So I came back home and while we were picking up our son, I was basically complaining in the car how my day went. And I said, well, I looked in the fridge, and this is like one example, but sometimes that is the little things that tell you the most about companies and how they operate. I looked in the fridge and I found an oat milk that expired in December 2022, and now we have May 2023. So there was plenty of time to take that and throw it away. And there are people that open that fridge every single day, and it's very prominent in there. And then I threw away the mayonnaise just next to it, which expired in October 2022. So that's one thing. And then so I told her that, and then she said, well, it's like, why did you throw it away? I'm like, well, it was clearly expired. You couldn't do anything with it. So I took it and I threw it away because I couldn't look at it. Now she said, well, is it your job to do that? Should you be doing that? And I'm like, well, if nobody else is doing it, then obviously, as if you are an owner of a company, you take the responsibility, you take the action, you start doing stuff. And that's what I did. I started doing stuff and I did that. And sometimes it's the right thing to do, especially if you want to jumpstart change. You have to demonstrate that you really want it. And sometimes it's literally sweeping the floor or cleaning out the fridge. But in that case, because that company is already a little bit longer in our portfolio, that shouldn't have happened. And I told her, well, you're right. When I started my career and I was working for a company at that moment that the name was Zentrax, and they were manufacturing solar inverters, and that was in Livermore, California. So when I came to that company, I was still a student, no idea about operational excellence at that point of time because I hadn't learned all the trades. But what I realized is that on their fridge, they have a sign that's basically read, this fridge will be cleaned out by 4:30 p.m. every Friday. And that's what they did. No matter what you left in that fridge, it went into the garbage, and on Monday, the fridge was empty. So I should have done the same thing. And she reminded me of that as like, I shouldn't have taken the action. I should have showed somebody and made sure they understand why it's not okay to have it. And then come up with a process or a fix, aka it can be a sign saying like this fridge will be cleaned out every Friday morning, whatever it is, when the cleaning company comes, and give the cleaning company authorization to throw everything into the garbage, what's left in that fridge by that point of time. And I didn't. And that realization sucked more than me like being like on my teeth because I had to do that. And it's like I felt extremely frustrated because I had to do that, and I felt frustrated because of the lack of ownership, the lack of pride on that. And there was another thing which basically was with the scanner, and in big companies you have IT personnel, and that like fixes stuff like that, like scan to email, and that function was there. And because like delivery notes need to go from that facility to somebody that processes then the invoices and like basically writes the invoices and puts the delivery note there. So for the financing companies and for the audits and all of that accounting stuff, right? That person sits 20 miles away. It's not like a big distance, but still it's not big enough to walk over and grab the delivery notes out of the basket physically and put it there. Now, because of a restructuring, that job basically, that function moved. So is the easiest thing is like when I realized, okay, we're not doing that regularly, and that was like what I came across yesterday, and that holds up invoicing and so on, which is really bad for cash flow if you don't invoice on that particular day when you could have invoiced. But you invoice 5 days later means like the customer, if they pay in the 30 days payment terms or the 14 days, whatever you have, pays you 5 days later, which means you have to finance all the material 5 days longer, and so on and so on and so on. So it's a bad thing, right? The easy fix was that yesterday I played around with that printer, fax, and scanning machine, which is it's like a normal thing today in today's world, right? It's not a high-tech solution, and it has scan to email. Most scanners have scan to email today. So I set it up. I programmed in the email address of the person where that needs to go to, and it even gave you the possibility to put a shortcut in, and I named the shortcut delivery notes, because it's like, make it as easy as possible. You like, what do you have to send? A delivery note. Where do you send it to the shortcut that says delivery note? It's the easiest thing. It's like 2 clicks and now it goes through. But the frustrating part is like, we do have tech savvy people there. They know that has the function, because we had programmed in other people from that office into like scan to email. So it's clear the function is there, and it's clear that the capabilities are there, and it's clear that the need's there. So what didn't go into my brain, and that was like the other conversation I had with her while we were driving in the car, is like, I said, I don't understand like why it takes me to go there and come up with that and say it's like, that's an obvious solution. Because by nature, I'm normally a lazy person. That means I want to do things right, and I want to do them one time. So if I can find a shortcut that helps me not going through the hassle to scan something to my PC, open my email account, put the thing there, because I don't have to write an email, hi, how are you, that the other person has zero interest in reading, because all they care for is the paper. So whatever email they get from me flagged as a delivery note, they will just simply go there, pick that delivery note, and that's it. So it's like, you can eliminate 10 minutes easily out of your day with that one thing, and increase cash flow, increase therefore profitability, decrease your stress level, decrease the stress level on the other side, make the whole operation smoother. So I didn't understand why, and that's where she reminded me that's one of the reasons why I do have that job, and that's one of the reasons why I do love that job, is because I can make operations more efficient. But it shouldn't be me necessarily doing it. I need to point it out to other people and take them more on board with it. I thought I'm already doing that, but apparently, I mean, she's like an outsider to that process. She knows the people involved, she knows the companies involved, but she doesn't know the day-to-day operations. For her, it's not obvious. And if it's not obvious for her, it's most likely not obvious for anybody in the business. And that's the thing for you as well. It's like, if you are frustrated, maybe the source of that frustration is actually because you are fixing something that you shouldn't fix. And it's sometimes it's really obvious to me as well, because in the other company we had that discussion on the purchasing side, where I said, it's like, yeah, you need a purchasing request form, and they said, well, we have one, and I said, where is it? Well, we stopped using it. And I'm like, why did you stop using it? Well, it was really good, but people then stopped using it, and then we didn't enforce it, and that now we don't have it, but we don't get the right information, blah, 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 and there's like that stress, and I don't like that. So that's the obvious solution, but obviously it's obvious for me, because I'm at that point, I'm the outsider. I'm like my wife at that point, and looking at it and saying like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it this way? You already have the solution. And it's the same thing for me. And this is sometimes why it's good to have an outside perspective on things you are doing. And sometimes that outside perspective doesn't really need to understand all the details evolved in the business, because like she doesn't need to know how a CNC milling and turning operation works in order to tell me that what I did was great, but I have no right to be frustrated, because the only reason why I'm frustrated is because I didn't fix it in the first time. So that is one of the key learnings for me for today, and I hope that story illustrates to you why you sometimes might be frustrated with people, but the real reason is you are frustrated with yourself because you did not fix it in the first time. You didn't do the right thing. You didn't anchor the change. We talked about that in the previous video, and you did not make sure people know the journey, how to go through. They simply follow along, or they don't have time. It's most of the time it's never bad intentions. It's like they don't have time, they never thought about it, it never occurred to them. And so get yourself a little bit away from that situation. And this is why I'm in companies, I'm never venting. I'm never blowing up. I'm never, like what you say, blowing steam. If I have to do that, I go outside. But it's always good to talk about things, because it reminds you that what is important is that you fix it. And that's the foremost responsibility for you as a business owner, is to make it more efficient, yes, but not by you covering for everyone, but by you making sure that there is a system in place that covers for everything. And it should be obvious to me, because that's what I do every day. But sometimes I'm just jumping the gun and I just want to fix it. That's like in my nature. I'm like, for my nature, I'm like a firefighter. If there is a crisis, a problem, I want to solve that immediate problem. But then I forget that I should solve the root cause, because the problem then is solved, the fire is contained. So I'm like, okay, good, job well done. And I walk away, and I do not prevent the same fire from reoccurring again, because I'm called maybe to the next fire. And that's for a lot of business owners, that's daily reality. It's like you go from one to the other to the next, while you shouldn't. You should make sure you contain it, but at the moment it's contained, you have to make sure things really, really, really get done in the correct way. And so for today's episode, those thank you wishes definitely go to my wife. Thanks for having me. Take care, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.